Alright, it has been a minute since I've talked about Blue Exorcist, but I finished Volume 2 today, and I wanted to talk about it because I am genuinely shocked by how much Kazue Kato manages to fit into each one of these volumes. Like, not to throw shade at any other monthly mangas, but Blue Exorcist definitely knows how to pack these pages. Okay, last time I sat down with Blue Exorcist, I wanted to say I was pretty friendly to it. Like, I was a bit bummed to see yet another sword and blue fire-wielding hero, but I remember praising the art style and the setting of the world, primarily the True Cross Academy, and obviously, none of that has changed yet, and hopefully it won't, but I will say that I'm a bit nervous because time in this manga is passing fast. Like, by the end of this volume, they're already approaching their first summer break of the school year. But what Volume 2 does well is that it trusts the world established in Volume 1, and instead it shifts its focus to like the power system of the manga, which I'm gonna say right now feels unbalanced. Like, obviously I haven't read past Volume 2, but like I'm thinking about like the Aria type exorcists, and I'm wondering how Kato is gonna continue making these specific type of exorcists viable, because having to search through what I imagine is like thousands of verses to find the one verse that kills a demon seems horribly inefficient, especially when it's like compared to the Tamer or the Knight or the Dragoon classifications, which all seem to be much more effective at killing demons. But before I go on further on this rant, I should probably do a recap of what happened in the story in this volume, and basically it's that we get to see Rin interact with the students at True Cross Academy, which again is a fairly standard magical school with like the specific classes all related to teaching kids how to fight demons. But what is interesting though is that unlike typical shonen manga that use like school as a safe, comforting backdrop, Blue Exorcist immediately establishes that that is not the case for True Cross Academy. I also want to apologize because I was calling Yukio a bit shady, but that's nothing compared to like Mephisto and Nehus, or Igor Nehus, I think is how you say it, who like are the primary reasons why the school is in danger in this volume. Like, those two are actively out here putting students in danger, and I gotta hand it to Kato because I'm not sure if those two are like our antagonists or if this is just some major double bluff, like particularly Mephisto, because apparently he's in contact with Satan himself and may not be training Rin out of the goodness of his heart like I first kind of wanted to assume. But back to what I was saying, the purpose of True Cross Academy is to train exorcists, and like a school, it has examinations for students to pass and progress through. But these classes and exams all seem to be intentionally like life or death situations, and it's very sink or swim because these kids did not seem remotely prepared for the task that approaches them at the end. And obviously, because it's a school, there are other students, and we get to meet most of Rin's classmates in this volume, most of whom I genuinely don't even remember the names of. But two in particular are standouts who I actually liked a lot. Shiemi from the last volume stays like this innocent heart of the manga, but Bon, whose real name is like Ryuji Suguru, and Kamiki, I think is the other one's name. This is not boding well. Those two were my favorite new students introduced in this volume. Ryuji, who's how I'm going to say his name because I don't know 100% about his last name, was my favorite because I typically like the rival character, and I enjoyed the fact that the rivalry between Rin and him by the end of the volume doesn't seem super toxic, as they both share the same goal, and they're very similar people. But they do have very different views of the world, particularly due to the traumas they carry, with like Ryuji's temple being a victim of the Blue Knight, where Satan somehow manages to cause the death of many high-ranking exorcists around the time of Rin's birth. And I'm looking forward to see how Ryuji will react when he learns that Rin is the son of Satan, and how that will impact like the story moving forward, as the two serve as very interesting mirrors of each other. And this dynamic is something I want to see unfold. But whereas Rin's relationship with Ryuji shows more of his stubborn side, his dynamic with Kamiki and Shiemi shows that like there really is a good kid under all of his bravado, particularly in the way he confronts Shiemi about like how she is being used by Kamiki in the beginning of the manga or the beginning of the volume. And despite the fact that Rin doesn't like people like Kamiki, he still goes to help her when he sees that she is in need. And in this volume, there are some absolutely awesome fight scenes as well. And I don't know if all of the action scenes are this good, but Kato is amazing at drawing action panels that really, at least to me, show this sense of fluidity and speed as well as striking power, which I find impressive given the medium that you're working with. And of all the characters, the ones whose relationship continues to be hit on the most are the ones between Rin, Shiemi, and Yukio. And Rin and Shiemi are victims of this annoying misunderstanding in a conversation plot where Rin denies being friends with Shiemi and hurts her feelings. But through Shami's relationship with Yukio, we get to see Yukio, in my opinion, at least, in a much better light, where he isn't, like, as snooty or superior when it comes to Rin, but actually acknowledges the traits about Rin that make him special. And Yukio, in a lot of ways, continues to be this enigmatic character, and part of me still doesn't fully trust him, but I can't deny that he's growing on me, and I think that Yukio's struggle of, like, on one hand being very protective of Rin, but on the other dealing with the sense of, like, unease to the point of almost fear and how he handles Rin and his demonic powers is probably the most intriguing part of his character. And the fact that his job, in the words of Igor, is to apply the brakes to Rin's power, while the world tries to step on the gas, leads me to wonder if we're ever going to see, like, Yukio hit a breaking point eventually. I do want to pause for a moment and say that Blue Exorcist, while I am enjoying it so far, hasn't really struck me yet in a way that makes me think like this is going to be a particularly special experience. The volume, though intentionally written with this in mind, was notably slower than Volume 1, and for the most part did little to progress the main storyline. Volume 2 also leans very heavily into classic shonen tropes such as the rival, and the comedic misunderstandings, and the standard school hierarchy dynamics, and these elements can make the story feel predictable at times, and lacks a little bit of the originality that made Volume 1 stand out so much for me. Like, if you're familiar with shonen, you've read most of the tropes in this volume before, and while they're well executed, I didn't feel like there was anything in this manga that you haven't seen before if you loved series like My Hero Academia or Naruto, for example. But I think that what makes Blue Exorcist, despite these critiques I mentioned, so interesting is the themes that it explores primarily through Rin in the story so far. Like, Volume 2 really starts to dig into the theme of identity, especially through Rin's struggle with his demonic heritage. Like, Rin's desire to become an exorcist despite being the son of the most powerful demon raises an interesting question of, can we escape the sins of our bloodline? And I think that this fight with Igor, where he accepts Igor's anger and pain caused at the hands of his father without any resentment, really speaks to Rin as a character. And in so many ways, Rin reminds me a lot of a young Naruto, and I mean that in the best possible way because pre-timeskip Naruto is one of my favorite characters of all time. And while this volume hasn't managed to be as much of a tearjerker as Naruto was, I do think that the story has potential to go places. So overall, I thought the volume was good. If I were to rank it, I would probably give it a 3 out of 5, pretty standard when it comes to my level of enjoyment. But I think this volume does mystery and intrigue rather well, and has some pretty unique moments of horror mixed with levity, all of which are really accentuated by Kato's great art style, especially the horror aspects. There are some drawings that are in this that are just absolutely frightening, that just... great job. And while I'm still waiting for Blue Exorcist to ascend beyond what I would consider a standard shonen manga, I also don't believe that something being standard is bad. So those are my thoughts on Blue Exorcist Volume 2. And if you enjoyed it, it would mean a ton if you would go down and hit the like button and the subscribe button. And I really do love interacting with all of you down in the comments, so don't hesitate to share your thoughts on the series below. Just please be courteous of spoilers. As I said, I've only read the first 2 volumes. And, I don't want to have the story ruined for me. Also, I'm trying to be more active on X, and it would be really cool if you could follow me there too. And if you've seen some of my other videos, you probably have heard me mention that my ambition is to become a storyteller myself. So if you have the time and are interested in seeing some of my work, I have 2 novellas on Wattpad to read right now for free. One is a work in progress, but the other one is completely done. So please, if you have the time, give that a chance. None of the stories should take you longer than an hour to finish, and you don't have to read it all in one sitting. But with that, I've really got nothing else to plug, so until next time, stay safe out there and have a great rest of your day. Peace.